The world of theater is full of stars. But just like in the night sky, sometimes we don't see them all. Some are in the wings, some are maybe up over us in the catwalk. Hopefully they're not under the stage, but you never know. In this series, we are going to meet those hidden stars of the theater, hear their stories, and be inspired by them. So join me on this journey here in my state-of-the-art production studio in my backyard as we meet the hidden stars of theater. Hey, welcome everyone. It's great to have you here, as always, in my camper in my backyard on the hidden stars of theater. I should probably have some kind of a cool effect when I say that, but you know, I'm not that cool. But you know who is cool? Tom Gray. He is our guest today, and I'm excited for you to meet this guy. Tom. I like Tom because I like all our guests. I just throw that out there. But Tom and I, we got some things in common, like we both come from country. I'll just say that. And he and I, we speak the same language, a little bit of redneck, I'm going to say. He's probably hauled some hay and some things I've done, which is really cool. And I'm excited for you to meet him and find out kind of how some of that background that maybe not as much theater related has served him well. What a great story as always. And so with that redneck introduction, Tom, welcome to the Hidden Stars of Theater, brother. It is great to have you here.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
You bet, man. Absolutely. And just look forward to having you hang out here in the trailer and just learning from you about the world of automation carpentry and hear the crazy adventures you've been on, and you know, and the things, as always, that shaped you and made you into what you are today, this just wonderful gentleman of the theater, right? Is that fair? Or is it,
I people would disagree with you with gentlemen, but you know, they're not here. So
hey, I'm trying to be nice. Trying to be nice. No, in fact, what's the name of your company is the Angry Tech Guy.
Angry Tech Guy. Yep. It's sometimes not the best qualifier. I've had a lot of people ask me about it, but one thing for sure, as soon as I started stenciling that on my toolboxes, my tools stopped disappearing. So
that is brilliant.
Yeah.
I've thought about stenciling on mine infected with COVID.
I mean, culturally relevant for sure.
Absolutely. And the way tools can disappear on any level of theater. Absolutely. Well, brother, I am not going to take any more time because you are the star of the day here on, and you are truly a star. And I think by the end of your story, our students are going to agree with that. And so at this point, man, the stage is yours. I just want to hear your story, as you know, from the beginning, all of the things that really began to influence you and affect you and grow you into what you are today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Tom Gray. Tom Gray. Tom Gray.
All right. Well, like you said, I come from a very small town. It's Hamilton, Alabama. It's actually the largest town in America to never have a railroad. And with that great success, we didn't have a theater program in our high school, so I did bale a lot of hay. I was the president of the FFA and the 4-H club, and we ended up doing a lot of work on the county vehicles, fixing tractors. I learned how to weld. And I was also very active, even at a young age, with Habitat for Humanity, which is a wonderful, absolutely wonderful charity.
It's a great organization. I've done some work with them myself. Absolutely.
And it's really great because it gives people who have never built anything ever in their life some hands-on experience with building homes for the people who are a little bit less fortunate.
Yep.
So all through high school with my church, I became really involved in that. And I became actually a foreman who ran crews by my senior year. And really theater, I enjoyed theater. I enjoyed going to we had to go to Memphis. That was the closest tour house to see shows, but I never thought that it was going to be my profession. And then I decided that, like, after riding a lot of dirt bikes, and my dad was in the motorcycle industry, I thought,
Okay.
you know, I'm gonna be a motorcycle designer and build cool things that go fast. And the first step in doing that was to get a mechanical engineering degree.
Okay.
So I had to choose between going to Nebraska, which is a wonderful mechanical engineering school, or the University of Alabama in Huntsville, which is known for their pipeline to NASA.
Right.
So I got a really great scholarship to UAH and decided that that's where I was going to go. So I ended up going and doing the mechanical engineering route. I worked with a lot of clubs on campus, including the Space Hardware Club, which, you know, as a machinist in the lab there at school, we assembled and sent a satellite into outer space.
How cool is that?
So cool. It's something that, like, I kind of like pepper into conversation, like, yeah.
It probably comes up good if you ever play that game, Two Truths and a Lie.
Yes, exactly. The antenna actually ended up being the workings of a tape measure, so it would unroll and roll back, and it was.
I've got one right here.
There you go. That's it. You're so much closer to building a satellite right there.
Well, my camper is close to being in outer space several times with tornadoes, but it's a different story.
There you go. There you go. So I, like I said, I enjoyed theater, and I needed to take an elective my freshman year. And so I decided, you know, theater appreciation would probably be pretty easy. And I know the titles, and, like, maybe I'd get to go see some shows. So I took this class. The professor's name was David Harwell. And on the first day of class, if I had only known that this was going to change my entire life, you know, I might not have gone to class. But yeah, so it was a great class that was filled with engineers and nursing students and all these people who were just looking for an elective. But it was, more importantly, it was put on by David Harwell, which he was the epicenter for the theater program at our college. Okay. And it was not, we didn't have a theater major. We didn't even really have a theater minor. What you could get was a conjugate, which is kind of like one step lower than a minor, but
kind of a concentration, so to speak.
Yeah, concentration. And we did 4 shows a year, and they were great quality. David Harwell actually won an Emmy for scene design with the show Between the Lions on PBS, and just a wonderful mind that kind of, you're like, why are you in Huntsville, Alabama, right? Why are you here?
Did you wonder if he was in the witness protection program or something? Right.
Yeah.
Did you get involved with the mob in New York?
Yeah, all of the Nazi rocket scientists they brought to Huntsville. It's an episode. But yeah, so he was really my first great mentor. He was the guy who kind of gave me this sense that even though we might be doing theater in a drop tile ceiling, old converted classroom space, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't give our audience the best art possible.
Absolutely.
And so
that's good.
The resources, you know, beg, borrow, steal. And the caveat to taking this class was you had to give 10 hours of, like, your time to come in and work on sets and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I love building stuff. Like that's my passion. So I quickly accrued 10 hours and didn't cut off my thumbs or anybody else's. And he was
That's
like,
positive.
I like you. If you come in and work more hours, your grade will just continue to get better in the summer. And so, I mean, easy. It was great. We did this like little crappy middle of America truck stop diner that, I mean, it was, we shot on site. I mean, it was beautiful.
That's awesome.
And gritty and disgusting. And we brewed coffee in the back every night, so it smelled like a diner. I mean,
Very good.
It was a really great introduction into tech life. And but at the time, I'm still, I've gotten a job at the reliability failure and analysis lab that works for NASA and the DoD. And I'm like, I'm going to be an engineer. It's going to happen. Theater's fun, but like calculus. So
there you go.
So my father was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer.
Oh man.
And that very rapidly came to an end. And so I was a little bit lost my sophomore year in college, and kind of did a lot of soul searching and decided the best vice I could do to deal with this was to really just work myself until I was tired enough to sleep.
Right. Yeah.
And so, so I decided, theater, they're always working on a production. They don't have a lot of people to help. And David Harwell was so kind and compassionate and, let me be involved, and kind of scaled the design to his understanding that like I'm going to be there and I'm going to be the guy cutting. So like as our relationship of kind of director, designer, and technical director started and moved forward, it really became like we were able to put on a better show that looked more professional. And it was with it being such a small department, not many techs. We had a really great like sound design department with Mama Doty, who also did a lot of sound design in New York City and was amazing. And
so was Mama her actual name, or was
no, John
everybody's Mama?
Is her real name, but she's Mama Doty and will be forever.
That's awesome.
She did really great design work, and like we'll do these things and it'll sound great. But what I think our sound department had always at that time kind of missed was the technical guy, right? So there, I found myself on ladders all the time hanging speakers,
right?
While there was 5 guys around the board, or 5, technicians, guys and girls. And so I really kind of my entire college career filled the gaps from lighting to carpentry to where do the speakers need to aim. And that I think gave me a leg up that some of the people who went to the larger schools that everyone's all heard about missed out, because I was able to become a wild card.
Right.
So I'm really thankful about that. And then, David, I think, saw something in me that maybe it was that I'm just crazy enough to try something that maybe I shouldn't have tried to begin with. But he said, you should go to SCTC this year, which is the Southeastern Theater Conference, big get together where you have, if you're an actor, you have these auditions, and they're hiring all of these technicians for summer stock. And it's really a great educational opportunity, because they also have some really, really great speakers who, you know, like our school made a turntable. These are the things we ran into, and it's a really great sharing of ideas. And
Right.
so I, being a sophomore and having this job in a real deal scientific lab, I was like, I'm not going to get a job here, but you know, if it's worth doing, it's worth failing at least once.
Boy, say that again. That's a great saying.
If it's worth doing, it's worth failing at least once.
There's a lot of wisdom right there, man.
Man, my dad just peppered all of this throughout my childhood, like I knew what he was telling me. And then, so anyway, here we are trying new things, spending way too much money on getting my resume made out of cardstock. And I really went into the job fair thinking, you know, even if this is just good practice, that's something I can get out of it. So
right.
I handed my resume to every single human being who would listen to me, and some who really didn't want to listen to me. And I was really blown away by the fact that I got, I want to say maybe 9 callbacks to like a second stage. And one of them was a callback to meet Eric Moore, who was at the time the technical director for the Santa Fe Opera, which I had never heard of because I was not a real active theater person, but it's a big deal, apparently.
It is. It's a huge deal. Yeah, we've got a lot of our guests who cut their teeth at SFO for sure.
And part of the stuff I was doing in this lab had to do with carbon fiber and fiberglass work. And so I had this weird composites thing on my resume that, you know, just because I said yes and like took this job, it gave me an opportunity to work with stuff that obviously, you know, in some circles is classified. And so I was incredibly lucky to have this. And because their theater is covered but outdoor, they need things that are lightweight, that's not going to get toppled by wind or stuff. And so they work with a lot of carbon fiber. And so I just by happenstance fulfilled kind of this weird need they were looking for. And he gave me a journeyman position, which I didn't know what that was, but it's kind of a big deal because
that is a big deal. Yeah.
A large apprenticeship program that's normally the first job you get coming out of the gate. And a journeyman is a staff position. So I got my own house and all of this other stuff. And I was a little bit ignorant in if you could use that word, of my understanding of like, man, this is actually a great thing. I'm like, I got this job. I'm going to New Mexico. Like, it'll be great. And while I was there, I was truly, I think, put back into my place of like, this is truly what great art looks like. This is a scale and a production rate that is unlike anything else I had ever worked with or
it's top of the line, man. It's like going from, you know, a bike to a Porsche, right?
Dude, yes. It was amazing. And I you know, being kind of a redneck from Alabama, and I'm like, yeah, I can hang a light there. And this was kind of my first experience with the jargon and like, you know, I can use a table saw, but what do you want me to make? Hog trough? What's that? You know?
So I know what a hog trough is because I build scenery and, you know, I like things to not fall down. But are there some terms like that you can just, you know, sometimes we just take a second and drop some knowledge. Boom.
So hog trough, it is an assembly of 2 normally 1x4s that create a rigidity. It's normally at a 90-degree angle, and you can use it to put a strong back or make a piece of sheet goods like more rigid.
Right.
Yeah. So like that summer, hog trough was one, stingers, which are this, steel rope that have two eyes on either end. We had some work with counterweight assist, moving scenery. It was really, really interesting because it's not a fly house, right? There's no counterweight system that exists, right? If something moves up and down, they made it special for that show. And so that was something that I could relate to UAH because none of our spaces are flyable in the structural sense.
You have to have space to fly.
Yeah, yeah, or even just the mechanisms, right?
Yeah,
like, If we want something to go up and down, how can we do that and hide it in the scenery? So it was amazing. I mean, Greg Blanky, who is the manliest man I've ever met, he would shave his face, his beard in the morning, and on the drive to work, it would grow back.
That's awesome.
As the master carpenter, there was nothing he couldn't do with a claw hammer. I mean, really, just one of the most like, I got this.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the staff was also amazing and so patient with me because they could see that my biggest barrier was like, this is just a new world for me. So they were very patient and very forthcoming with the knowledge. And it was such a wonderful experience. We did 5 shows that season in rep. So if you're there on the right week in Santa Fe, New Mexico, you can watch 5 or 6, however many there are, different operas, world-class operas in one week. Bang,
that's
bang,
crazy.
bang.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I tell you, I do hear a lot about them because a lot of our guests are apprentices there and journeymen, and it's so impressive. I mean, I'm familiar with their work. My undergrad stuff was in opera. I actually sing opera. I don't sing it much, but sometimes my mom makes me for her friends. But the thing is, to me, one of the most impressive things is everybody learns. I haven't talked to anybody who says, well, I went there as an intern, but I didn't learn anything.
Right.
It's just incredible. The amount of people in the industry who attribute their success to Santa Fe Opera and to all that they learned there. So kudos SFO.
SFO.
Big job, man. I don't know if anybody says that but me. Santa Fe Opera.
No, it's amazing when you're like SFO and they're like SFO. They're everywhere. I mean,
did you get the tat? Did you get the SFO tat?
I do. I've got it actually. Yeah, it's amazing. And with something like, I want to say it's like 600 employees every season, it's really what I think. I can't think of one single job that I've gotten that I didn't get because I knew someone from SFO and, oh, what year? Oh my gosh, do you know? And oh yeah, I know that guy. And like, yeah, oh man. So it's really, I think, how lucky I am that was my first plug into this industry.
Yeah, and I think that's good for our students to know because they need to know that that's a serious opportunity. If it's offered to them or they can go after it, do it.
Absolutely.
Do it. In this industry, it's one of the golden keys.
And I mean, even if you don't get it the first time out or the second time out, like it's worth it to work towards that goal. So I went from this beautiful, amazing professional theater built into the hillside of the New Mexico desert where the sun sets behind the stage and then we start the production back to this drop tile ceiling renovation.
It's not the same? You mean it's not the same?
it's, you know, I would have settled for a real table saw, you know. I went from this world-class shop to we build it in the theater in the space, and then we paint everything black and hope that the dean of the business school doesn't come in here and look how many seats we've taken out. And so, like, culture shock a little bit, and I know that I got a little bit upset that, like, all right, well, I'm back here, but you know, again, David Harwell reiterated that it just because we're in this space doesn't mean that we get to give our audience less, right? Like, we need to continue to meet this high standard that we've set for ourselves, and take it as a challenge, right? Like, you need to do the same work with less, and
Absolutely.
if you can do art here, you can do it anywhere, right?
No, you know, and that's one of my kind of heart's cry. One of my missions in life is to, you know, I work with a lot of people in a lot of different theaters, and so many of them are just like, well, we're just in this town, so it doesn't have to be great. Why? I mean, we want your audience to love the show. You can do great work with anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can't do something great, scale it down and build something you can do great. And yeah, art is art. And so preach it, brother. That's what I got to say. That's good. That's and he's exactly right. Yeah.
The double-edged sword to that is, and I think that's something I've sometimes not handled very well, is if the set is the most amazing thing about the show, you messed up.
True enough.
I know. I was a senior and we designed a show with projection, and people came up and they're like, "Oh my God, the set was amazing," and projection. I was like, "So the show sucked."
So do you ever, you know, you don't have to admit this, but you might nod a little bit of, have you ever designed a show and built it, and then you saw the actors and then you thought, we gotta break some things on the set.
Yeah, break that wall. That
gonna make that paint look less good.
Yeah, when in doubt, make a hinge squeak. That takes them out.
That's good. That's good. That's a t-shirt.
Yeah. But for sure, like, you have to acknowledge your strengths, and you have to stay within the margins. And I think that is something that I think you can use that in any area of your life, is stay within your margins, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
So anyway, came back, did another huge first for UAH, built a thrust in a venue that shouldn't have a thrust, and it came out 40 feet further than we've ever done one. And, you know, so really hammered on the carpentry skills that I had learned at Santa Fe. And then I was like, I'm going to go back to Santa Fe for another year. Like, it's going to happen. That was my plan all along. I decided, I had heard so many things about this conference called USITT, which is only for techs. And I was like, that sounds so much cooler than SETC. So I went there, and in the process, while we were trying to work out the Santa Fe Opera gig, the start date was way too soon. I was still going to be in school, and I wasn't available to come out. So they had to offer the job to somebody else because they needed the person in March or whatever. And so that kind of bummed me out. I was like, well, I guess I could just not have a job this summer. And one of my SFO friends was like, oh, you don't have a job? We need to go talk to Sam. So he said it with the fluidity that we're going to go meet this guy's roommate or something.
And this was still at USITT?
Yes, still at USITT. And so I think we went straight from like a Mexican Tex-Mex restaurant with margaritas.
There you go.
Straight from that into the expo, directly to the PRG booth.
And tell us who PRG is, because some of us won't know that.
PRG is the Production Resource Group. They are a worldwide entity. There's almost no large production that goes on around this world that there is not at least one facet of it that PRG handles. I mean, they're in something like 90 countries, shops all over the world.
Wow.
They do it all. They do the big stuff. And then the shop that this was from was actually the Scenic Technology Shop, which is in upstate New York. And they specifically build all of the automation that PRG uses in this shop. And they do a lot of work on Broadway, doing scenery, sound, video, lighting. I mean, they're a major warehouse, and specifically this shop specialized in automation.
So in other words, a really cool place to go.
Oh man, I was like, what are we doing here? And he's like, we're coming to talk to Sam. And I'm like, what? What? And there's this older gentleman sitting at this table with a long line of people all like holding their resumes. And I'm like, we just came from a bar. I'm in short. Like, what are we doing? And he's like, no, come on. And so my friend Nathan walked up, and we stood there for a couple seconds, and Sam looks over and is like, Nathan, and like hands the resume back to the person who is sitting there, who, you know,
who had horrible timing
because it was their first trade show, I'm sure. And was like, keep working, come back next year and you know, talk to me again. And so
yeah,
he invites Nathan to sit down. and I'm just like awestruck, because I'm like, what are we doing here? And he's like, sit down, Tom. And so he's like, hi, Sam, this is Tom. And I reach my hand out there, and he's like, hi, I'm Sam Pierce. I'm the operations manager at the Scenic Technology Shop for PRG. And I'm like, hi, I'm Tom. And you know, I luckily had a resume and handed it to him. And Nathan's like, well, this is my friend Tom. He's got a satellite in outer space, and he needs a job this summer. What can you do for him? And I'm just, I mean, you know, I'm over there like, why am I here? And so Sam's like, oh man, this is great. Resume's great. Fill out the application and we'll see what we can do for you. And so I remember a couple weeks later, I'm back at home and sending the follow-up emails, you know, doing the grind, like, thank you so much for your time to everyone.
Right, yeah.
To. And I remember getting this email, oh my gosh, Tom, sorry we didn't contact you. We're offering you a internship for the summer. So
awesome. See
you in May or whatever. And I'm like, oh crap. And so the internship was the PRG Scenic internship, which is the next milestone for me. So I go up to upstate New York, kind of terrified, because with Santa Fe, like, housing and all of that was dealt with PRG. It's like, see you at the shop. Like, so that was a little scary. But anyway, showed up, and again, it was one of those things that, like, you're looking around talking to the other interns, and they're from all of the big schools that, like, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, I'm a redneck from Alabama, and I talk real slow, but I can hit things with a hammer real good, I guess. And so anyway, you, as the rotation intern, you spend time in every single shop, carpentry, steel shop, the automation department, the art department, and it does some really great things for you. You learn what you want to do, what you're good at, and you learn what you're not good at and you don't want to do.
Right.
And so I had been welding for, at this point, probably about 5 years, 6 years. So when I get to the steel shop, normally what they do is they're like, all right, for the first week, we're going to teach you how to weld. I skipped that whole first week because I knew how to weld, and I immediately got put on a job that was a rush job for Queen, the Adam Lambert tour. And they were like, oh man, this guy brought a toolbox and he can weld and like, he's a cool dude. And I think I struck up a rapport with these guys in the shop that I can only attribute to being a redneck, blue collar guy from Alabama. And that kind of struck a chord with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, I think one of the things I love about your story is it brings to mind one of my greatest bits of wisdom from a great American philosopher, I think you will agree, Hank Williams Jr., and that is his wise words that a country boy can survive.
Yeah, praise his name.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and basically, being from the South, we get education in some things. You mentioned VOAG and FFA, and those are things that we have in schools where you learn those skills that a lot of it sounds like a lot of the other guys who were in this program didn't have.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I just want to throw that out as a word of encouragement to any of our listeners who may be in a more rural area and you think, I didn't grow up doing theater, I like it, but how would I ever get this? The skills that you have may actually surprise you that those are skills that you're going to transition and use them in a different way. But man, learn them, be good at them, because they're skills that you'll need. So that's awesome. And I love that you brought that out and so that, I think that's going to be encouraging to some guys. So thank you. Thanks for that, dude. And great for you, right? Put your head on someone else.
It was a really interesting, perfect storm, I guess. So within the steel shop is the mechanic shop. So they're the guys that assemble these automated winches and linear actuators and things that make PRG so much money. And so
yes,
I go in there, and at the time, the guy who was in charge his name was Mike Dalton, and he was a motorcycle, old Marine helicopter mechanic that really, I mean, as far as mechanics go, like he gets it. And I think we really kind of formed a bond over like motorcycles, and like I understood gearboxes, and he really kind of took me under his wing and was like, man, like you brought a toolbox, you're already like one step ahead. Right? And so I think that was for sure the first time I'd ever really dealt with automation.
Right.
And how cool that was. I'm like, chains, gears, gearbox, motor, winch. I got it. Like,
it's like being told, hey, you're going to get paid to play with Legos and, all of the building toys that are erector sets and stuff. And really?
Yeah. Like, twist my arm, I guess. But that was an amazing experience. And like, I think everyone in the steel shop was really like, this is a guy that he's got both sides of the coin. He can understand the theater, the upstage, downstage, how it operates, but also he has the hands-on skills, right? And I think you normally have one or the other, and really good technicians kind of have to have a whole world view of the entity. So after that, I went down to the automation department, which does the like computer side of it. And the first thing they do is they sit you down with John Hennessy, who helped start PRG as an automation company.
Oh, wow.
And if you can hang with him for 3 days of him explaining from the first generation PRG system to like what we're the flagship of today, and like be engaged and understand what this electrical engineer from Iowa is telling you. I mean, he is such a wealth of knowledge. In between John Hennessy and Mike Wyatt, who is the on-site guy on Broadway, what they have they will they will forever know more in what they've forgotten than I will ever know. I mean, literally, like, that's not important anymore. Like, so outshines what I could ever learn about this industry.
Got you.
And for some reason, they liked me. So anyway, for the first time ever, I'm behind a console, and I had run a lighting board, so I kind of understood the technology of like a lighting board and how that could transition into actually moving objects. I feel like that was kind of an easy jump for me. And I gotta tell you, I fell in love with automation. I thought it was cool. It's I guess an indicator that like this is a professional thing. Like if you have automation in your show, you're the real deal.
It takes it to the next level. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so had a great summer, worked on some stuff professionally that they normally wouldn't let interns work on. And I mean, what an amazing, like, this is the next stage. This is something professional. This is something that like, and tangible for the first time ever, really. Like, here's a shop that does it year round. So again, I went back to this drop tile ceiling theater department that still doesn't have a shop. Still, you know, just, I mean, beg, borrow, steal, coming in like at midnight to cut a wall apart or something, right? Like, fly by night operation.
So when you did that every time, those 2 summers from the Santa Fe Opera and then from PRG, and you had to go back, you know, again, that's almost like going back from the Porsche. Oh, we're going to take it's like you're getting grounded as a kid, right? Back at your bike now, Tom. Give us the keys to the car. You're back on the bike. Was that just frustrating, or did you see that as a challenge?
There was definitely a level of frustration to it. I can't say that there wasn't, but I think something that was really great about it was every time I came back with a new skill, every time I came back, I was like, I want it bigger. David Harwell was there and was like, what skill would you like to bring to this? To this show. And I think another first I did for UAH was I brought automation to the university. We were doing how to succeed in business without really trying. And again, trying to stay within our margins, right? If it looks too good for our actors, you know. So I was like, what do we need that you can't have right now? What do you need? And he's like, I need a 10-foot conference table, and I don't have anywhere backstage to put a 10-foot conference table. And I was like, well, how about if a 10-foot conference table came out of the floor? And he was like, that'd do it. And so I took it upon myself to build a 10-foot by 3-foot wide platform that would scissor lift out of the deck. Nice. And I had to have it collapse down into within 8 inches. So it went from 8 inches to 40 inches tall, and begged, borrowed, stole my way a winch out of a church who wasn't using it to run the curtains. For the record, officer. And
it's all for the sake of art. It's all for the sake of art.
It's tax deductible, officer. And so for, I want to say 16 productions, I sat in the front seat of the audience with a control pickle for the table up and the table down. We used it twice during the show, which was one more than we needed to use it. But he figured if we have it, might as well show it off. And built it all in my garage. I had to go out and buy a welder. I had to go out and buy a metal hot saw. Didn't have a truck big enough to bring it to school, so I went to U-Haul and rented a box truck. And I was like, I will no longer be held back by what UAH can give to me. And I remember turning in those receipts, and it was something like $3,000. And he's like, we should have talked about this.
And suddenly David learned a lesson from Tom.
Yeah, and for the first time ever, our president of the university was notified that a student needed to be reimbursed $3,000 for something, and he was like, What is this?" And he came to the show, and he sat next to me, and his breath was like taken away when that table came up.
Yeah.
And it was strong enough for someone to stand on. I mean, it was one of those things that like I really BS'd my way through that, learning geometry, and like I had never made one before, but like how hard could it be? And there was big learning curve. But
but you did it.
I did
it off.
And after the show, the president is getting the tour backstage, and David's talking to him, and the president's like, where did he build this? Where'd you guys build this? And he's like, and David was like, he built that in his garage because we have no space here to build. He had to rent a truck because we have no truck. And for the first time, I think the president was made aware of, the things that we're doing despite having no resources, to
Right.
speak of. And I think now is a pretty good time to say that the university now has a full major program. They have a wonderful shop, full service. They have an amazing theater annex now with a costume shop, and it all was forged blood, sweat, and tears out of those years that we did without, and we showed them that we were worth the investment.
That's awesome, man. That's an encouraging story for sure, because so many universities are doing the opposite right now. So
yeah,
good on you, brother. That's awesome.
So I was finished with my 4 years of scholarship money, and I had to make the decision because I changed from mechanical engineering to communication arts. There were some slip-ups in my program of study schedule, so I needed to take some more classes to get this communication arts degree, which most people use to write speeches for politicians, which I'm not doing. And I really, I had been receiving calls every week offering jobs, offering tours, offering, money on the table that I kept having to say no to. And I got to the end of my scholarship and was like, what makes more financial sense? Like, keep turning down these jobs or and go into debt, or just throw myself into the profession. And I decided to do that. I moved up to New York. I had joined my local stage union kind of like out of convenience, because it was a really great way to make beer money. Being the house head flyman, it was pretty easy, but it kept me in touch with, you saw the touring shows go through, and like, oh, that's a great way to mark truss. Oh, that's a great way to do this.
Yeah.
Way.
And that was your local roadhouse that you did that?
Yes, the Von Braun Civic Center. And so moved to New York, got up there, had my union status, which is all I was told I needed. And they were in the middle of a layoff, because I don't know if you know this, but in May, it's pretty dead as far as tours go.
Not a lot of new shows going up, and the tours are already out.
Yep. I was devastated. I had moved across the country, and I didn't have a job now. And, Sam was like, you have a job. As soon as work picks up, we'll call you back. And I was like, I need a revenue stream. And so they were like, all right, well, we'll pull a couple strings. And lo and behold, I found myself on tour with Drake the rapper.
What?
Yep. And I working alongside the crews for Kanye West, for Future, for a bunch of rappers that, I had never heard of. I mistakenly handed Pharrell, I handed Pharrell a cymbal stand because I was up there breaking down big on like drum set or something.
At least he seems like a really nice guy. I'm thinking,
yeah, I mean, he like grabbed it
right?
and just kind of looked around and was like, "This is weird, right? Like, this is weird." And his security swarmed him, and like they took the cymbal stand away. Like, what are you doing? I was like, "Who's that guy?" Uh-oh.
Yeah. He didn't be like, "Cause you clap along if you feel." He didn't. He wasn't happy.
He was honestly like, "Oh, this is new." Like,
let's do it.
Merkin, just like, wow, all right. But yeah, it was my first experience with tour life,
right?
Which, like, in rock and roll is awesome. You know, they're really good at the things they need to be good at, and if they're not good at it, it's not necessary. And it was one of those instances that I started out as an automation cover, and then quickly looked around and I was like, if you're helpful and if you have the tools they need and if you're willing to be that guy, that's how you get job security. And so every time someone's like, "Man, I wish I got to go get my harness and like climb up there," I was like, "I'll do it," and go up. I'm focusing lights. I mean, I'm helping pyro with cryojets. I mean, I'm doing whatever needs to get done. And I quickly became the guy that they were like, "We want him to be our automation guy because he's a team player." And so being the wild card and that team player really went a long way to my job security, to the point where I was doing both. I was back in the shop because work was back, and I would be working in the shop and then go out and do a gig. We did Austin City Limits. I'd fly down there, not sleep for 36 hours, fly back, and then, go back to work in the automation mechanic shop building
and the shop being you're back at PRG, right? At this time? Gotcha.
Yep. And man, it was crazy. It was awesome. It was such a learning experience. And then I became the kind of on the go, on the road, fix it guy for PRG, willing to travel anywhere. I helped train the Wicked World Tour.
Wow.
Guys. We had to go to Birmingham, England, not Birmingham, Alabama. Very different places, actually. And it was awesome because we got to work on the Levitator, which flies Elphaba at the end of Act 1. And for the first time, I'm faced with a different country issue, right? Where the electricity is different, and the valves we were using were operating on 60 hertz, but over there the power's at 50 hertz. And a transformer doesn't fix that. So like we're troubleshooting something, and then like it occurs to us that the power like frequency is different, and that's why the actuator is skipping cycles. So it was an amazing 2 or 3 years working in the shop, going out, working, doing installs, working on over 80 Broadway shows, both on Broadway, off Broadway, worldwide. 80 different shows in 3 years.
I was gonna say, how old are you at this point?
Oh man, I'm 24.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like showing up. I mean, I'm growing a beard, like trying to, because you're going out working with local 1 guys or local 5 in Cincinnati, and like these are the professionals that have been doing this since they were 18, and they're not about to listen to some snot-nosed kid, right? So I'm doing everything. I'm like, I turn on the country sometimes, and just because you got to calm them down. And that didn't work. Well, we just got to put this together. And if you start talking like you're from Brooklyn, and it was really interesting. I mean, beard, like scruffy. I've got the tools. Angry Tech Guy shirts. Like, look professional. And it was just one of those things that I would see shows on the worst day of the show's run, right? Like a cable drum just exploded and like pieces everywhere, and I've got to fix it before the show that night. So it was like right into the fire of like, learn how to do this or you're going to get out. and that was amazing. And I decided that that I really enjoyed working out on site. And when I would be back in the shop, I would be kind of the shop fireman, because my boss didn't know when I was going to leave next, right? Because like if something went down in Vancouver, I had to go. So I never got my own, like, you're going to run this job from
Right.
the end. I was the firefighter. Like, this job is like about to leave. Can you go work on that? This job's about to leave. Can you go work on that? And I became so good at filling the gaps, being the wild card, that I didn't get to leave the shop anymore. I was the guy that we can't let him go because he's the finisher, right?
Right.
And so that's not what I wanted to do. And I decided that it was probably in my best interest at the time of being a 24-year-old to leave PRG full time and become an independent contractor for them, which I still am today. And just doing the installs, doing the things that I'm good at, the rigging, the automation operator jobs. And I remember calling every single contact and friend that I had met up until that point, from Santa Fe to Drake to everybody, and like, hey, I'm an independent contractor, angry tech guys, got tools and willing to travel. So I ended up installing IMAX theaters, including the largest screen in the highest grossing movie theater in the world.
Wow.
Which is in Bahrain. So I've worked in the Middle East, and let me tell you, they don't have forklifts there. They've got these trucks filled with people from Pakistan, and they all have rope, and they'll get on either side of a $30,000 projector that weighs 3,000 pounds, and 6 of them will carry this thing up 2 flights of stairs.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was like, this is crazy. And like looking around being like, I'm the only American. And looking around being like, I'm one of 3 white dudes and everybody likes Australians. So this is weird. And then coming back, I was having to turn down a lot of jobs that I really wanted to do, because as a third party contractor with these IMAX screens, if someone who was like pouring the floor or the slab or whatever messed up, and that would delay my job start. So my 3-day job install just became a 3-week install of me sitting here just watching them pour subflooring correctly day after day after day. I'm like, I'll do it. And so now I'm pouring subfloor and doing and it's I was having to turn down a lot of automation work because my schedule just wasn't working. So I left that job and decided I want something with healthcare. And I heard that Miss Saigon was going on tour. And having worked on the Broadway version, I made a promise to myself that if this tours, I want to be the guy who flies that chopper.
Yeah, because it's a great automation show. Holy cow, so much awesome automation.
The most complicated and difficult automation show I've ever run in my entire life. During the nightmare with the chopper, you have 2 separate systems. One's in metric, one's in imperial, and there are scenes where you're firing cues with both hands.
And why the difference in the measuring systems, in the metric versus?
So the chopper was built in the UK, which uses metric, and a wonderful piece of machinery. I mean, very reliable, very well built. By Adler Industries, and the guy, Paul Craven is his name. He's an amazing he's an old aerospace engineer, I think, and just a weird, cool, brilliant British dude who you wish was your uncle. I mean, just and a bit of a like also a tool guy like me. So like, we'd be all, you got to get the bolt in there. I was like, oh, I got a tool for that. And like, he'd be like, where'd you get this tool? And I remember 2 or 3 times me and Paul going to Home Depot and him just being like, this is amazing. So toured with that show and really kind of was able to put to use all of the tips and tricks that I had learned after seeing shows on the worst days of their lives, to every time something would happen, be like, oh, I got this. I've got a tool for this in my box. I've got the trick for this. Oh, go get me a piece of tie line. And they're like, you're going to fix a winch with a piece of tie line. I was like, absolutely. It'll be great.
Whatever it takes, man.
Yeah. I fixed, we were getting some really bad cavitation with the chopper because of the mast had taken a hit in travel, and it was slightly bent. And trying to figure out how to get the cavitation, because I mean, it's amazing with a spinning thing how much like shake that can induce into the rest of the thing, and to the detriment of the unit, right? So I was like, we gotta shim it. We gotta shim this. Do we have any shim stock? No. I've got a business card though, so I fixed something that was $250,000 with a business card.
Yeah, so basically I'm hearing you're the MacGyver of this.
I've been called MacGyver on more than one occasion.
I bet you have.
But something about the tour, that I had never really experienced before was now that I'm on their side of it, whenever I would bring something up like there's wear happening, I think we need to go through this and do a nice tweak up, just for safety, just to make sure I put a wrench on every bolt. I really kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say made some enemies, but I think it was counterintuitive to the mission of a show, right? You don't, with industrial equipment, you want it to run, and if you work on it and maintain it, it'll work for hundreds of years in some cases. And in this case, with theater, a lot of people are in the mindset that I need it to work for 100 shows, not 100 years. And I think a mantra that I've adopted for myself is, if you don't make time to schedule routine maintenance for your machines will do it for you.
Okay, so I'm going to have you repeat that. And before I do, I want to say a word to our listeners. If you are a teacher, a volunteer, an adult, a kid, it doesn't matter. If you're working in a scene shop or you run a scene shop especially, I want you to listen to this, because it has to do with safety as well, because machines that aren't maintained well can hurt you. So go ahead, Tom. For those in the back who weren't listening, say it again.
If you must schedule routine scheduled maintenance, or your machines will schedule it for you.
Yes.
Most of the time, at the most inappropriate time during a show, just bolts flying off somewhere, and you're like, now maybe we should do something. And so I think my only vindication is sometimes, I would send an email and be like, I think this is going to be the next fail point. And, 2 weeks down the road, it's like, hey, so we need to order some new parts because this failed. These casters gave out, just, and it's, not often was it like we were ignoring safety concerns, but like, call me when it breaks and we'll fix it immediately. And it's like, or we could do something about keeping it from breaking.
Yes.
It just two frames of thought. And as a mechanic, I'm here to speak for the machines, right? Like that vibration means something's not good. And, and
the money people are saying, but it might not break.
If it was easy, the accountants would do it.
That's truth.
So,
very true.
Yeah. So I was on tour with that for about 10 months, and I got off in Cincinnati. Best city to leave a tour. If you're going to leave, do it on the high point, because Local 5 is best stagehands in the country, hands down.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, so great guys. And then I brought my big toolbox back with me and left probably about a $3,000 tool list that, because the head carp's like, well, with you leaving and you taking your toolbox, could you give us a list of tools that we've been using yours and we don't want to do without? So I really do think the Amazon cart was like $3,000 worth of stuff.
Wow. And to point out just how good your toolbox is, from what I hear, being able to take your personal toolbox on the tour is a fairly rare thing.
It almost never happens. And I think it was one of those things like, yeah, because I was like, I have to have my toolbox. And I think everybody was like, well, you know, you don't, and you just don't know it yet. And then tech happened and they're like, we'll leave. Like the crew was like, we will, if his box doesn't go on that truck, we're not going.
It's like the magic box, like the clown car that things keep coming out of. And
yeah, and I mean,
how do you get all that in there?
Allen keys that I cut down for some specific, or like heated up and bent for some specific thing, and I'm like, oh my god, I have a tool for this, and would come back with this weird tool, and they're like, where did you, what, who are you, why are you here?
You need to be sure and let me know if you ever have a tool garage sale, because I'll make that trip.
Oh man, come on down, it's the museum. But so I got off that, and I was really kind of burnt out, sad to say. And I needed to like kind of reinstill my passion for theater. And I decided to give David Harwell a call, because he was kind of my grounding rod for all of this throughout my entire career. And he's like, man, you come back, we'll hire you as the TD. We have a great shop now. We just need somebody to run it. And I came down and instantly felt rejuvenated. I was able to kind of pass on my tips and tricks and lessons that I learned, sometimes the hard way, to these theater students who like are just starting their trajectory. And I felt like that was really a great thing that he let me do. And
he gave you the ability to give back. And you know, it's interesting because that's what took him there in the first place, right? Was he was kind of in the grind of it all and kind of wanted to slow down. And do you think, when you were sitting in Cincinnati kind of going, man, I'm a little burned out, and did that click in your mind? I mean, the fact that he did that, was that some of the motivation?
I think I called him pretty often on tour, just to vent, you know, to talk about why am I having a hard time turning this off? Why am I having a hard time like distinguishing between what I want and what the art needs? And
that's a great question. Interesting.
And so I think coming back, he was able to really take some of the work off his plate, because having a new major program, right? He's now playing administrator and so much, and they've grown the department into something really, really beautiful, really great staff, new hires, and people that are really doing great work and really kind of instilling great lessons into the upcoming professionals. And so he kind of took advantage of this opportunity to do big productions with big production value, because I was there and I had my toolboxes. I was like, we could weld a bracket and it would be like nothing. And it was the difference between, you know, what we could beg, borrow, or steal to what we could rent from somebody to, I really wish we had a deck track. Well, David, I could make us a deck track system.
Right.
And so we really did a lot to invest in the program, as far as building these decks with the workers we had, and building these deck track sections that you could reconfigure into something that's 120 feet long, or you could have 3 sections of 40 feet long, and just having infrastructure and building infrastructure that they can use in different productions. I felt really something that I wanted to give to him. And it was great. It was wonderful. We built the first set of Q lights that our school had ever had. And, you know, there was a little bit of learning curve for David, because we're in tech, and he's like, the lights, that means go, and it's yelling. I was like, David, you can't yell at them. The stage manager hasn't turned off the light yet.
Yeah.
Talk to the stage manager. And it was, for the first time, it was one of those, like, we're bringing you back into the professional sense, right? And I think that was really great. And it gave students an opportunity to see some things that they would see in any theater, walking in,
Right.
and be like, oh, the light's on, that means stand by. Lights off, that means go.
Right.
And that was really great. And then during this process, I was like, I need a house gig with insurance and full time, and start, you know, I know what scale I want to work on. I don't want to be in a PRG shop type system where it's just so much grind and it burns you out. I want to have this regional thing. And I got a job with the Shakespeare Theater Company, due in by a large part of someone that I had met at SFO.
Okay.
And moved from Alabama to Washington, D.C. in March. And then this epidemic hit, and have not gone into work yet. And so now we're kind of like sitting in limbo, trying to figure out what the next stage is, whether it's to go back to freelance or maybe to get out of the industry for a year or two until we kind of go back to normal. And so that brings us to today.
Wow, man, that's and just for perspective, how old are you now?
I am 27.
You're 27. Still young in most people's minds and mine. However, the things you have accomplished in that short amount of time, just mind-blowing.
Don't say no, just keep saying yes.
There you go, man. That is great advice, and such a great story. Thank you, man. Thanks for sharing that with us. We are running short on time here, and there's two questions that I've got to ask you, and there are questions I ask everyone. And if I know you've seen this show some, so you know this is coming. But one of them is, you are obviously very passionate about what you do, and you're very, very good at it, and those are often tied together. What is it? What is it that what drives the passion? Because I would see with you, there's some different aspects of it, but when it comes to be an angry tech guy, when it comes to really driving you to be the best you can for the art, can you put that into words? I mean, have you thought about that?
Yeah. So I constantly need to be a problem solver. I come from a long line of patent holding inventors, and that's really, I mean, if I'm being honest, that's really why I do this. Is I could build a tool, I can invent a thing, I can do a widget or a whoosy what's it, and having the right tools to solve problems better is really the reason why I do this. And I think that really kind of builds off the idea that I'm just a good old boy and I want to solve these problems, and that's why it's transferable to any industry. But for sure, staying home, the hardest part hasn't been not getting a paycheck or that, or being bored. It's I need problems to solve. So we've done, like, I put a jigsaw puzzle together in an hour, and it's like, yeah, I need another puzzle.
I need something else. Yep. I start every day by doing a crossword puzzle, Sudoku, and the crypto quote, and try to get those done in 15-20 minutes is my goal. Yeah. So I'm right there with you. Yeah, you got to engage the brain.
Yeah,
that's great. That is awesome, man. So the last thing, it is your chance to leave your mark on the trailer, right here on the wall of wisdom, right behind me, and it's getting full. But there's room left. There's always room for more wisdom. So I have my gaff tape. I've got it all prepped here. I've got my paint pen. All I need is the wisdom from your brain to put on said piece of gaff tape and add to the wall of wisdom for us. So what's it going to be? What's it going to be, Tom?
Take the job that scares you.
Take the job that scares you. Dude, talk about that. Why is that important? Is that right? That'll give me time to write.
I think it's important because if you're not challenging yourself, then what are you doing wasting this opportunity of your life? I mean, really, I think people who settle or do what's comfortable, they aren't able to live their life to the fullest. And so taking the jobs that scare you both challenge you to become a better person, become a better technician, and like you get to look back on it and be like, I won. Or, you know, I think that's what I've always tried to do in my professional career is do something that challenges me to be better.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you don't mean like get a job testing bulletproof vests, because that would be scary.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't think the payoff. I mean, you're either right or it's not your problem anymore.
No, I'm just kidding. That is brilliant advice. Yeah. So be willing to challenge yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, here it is. I got it on here. Boom, 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 boom. Right there.
Boom.
We're going to throw you up here. And, oh, somebody's falling down. Uh-oh. Where? Think, look, you're going to be different. You all right with being different?
Oh, yeah.
Boom, right there. All right, it's there.
Bingo.
Awesome, very good. Man, so much wisdom on that board, and that fits perfectly. Take the job that scares you. Well, there's only one other thing to do, and that is you are a star, my friend. You are obviously a star, and so much of the magic that happens in this world of theater that we love, it's because of people like you and because of you personally and your willingness to take the job that scares you. And I have seen the tour. I saw the last tour I saw before everything shut down was Miss Saigon. And so, man, thank you because that helicopter it's just captivating. And that's only one piece of automation in that show. But you are a star who does not get to take a curtain call. So right now this is for you. I would stand up and give you a standing ovation, but there's not room in the trailer. So now you need to put into practice the suspension of disbelief. And imagine that I am a 20,000 or 20 million people crowd. Multiply this applause because you deserve it. So, sir, the stage is yours. This is your curtain call. Thank you, Tom Gray.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome. And I'm sure the millions of people that watch this video will all clap for you. But you truly are a star, dude. I know that, you know, as stagehands and as tech people, we don't get a lot of praise. In fact, most of the time, people only think about us if something's going wrong.
Absolutely.
But it would not happen without us. Would not happen without you. So thank you for all you do for us. And we appreciate you. We love you. And dude, thanks for taking the time to be on my show. This is incredible.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Doing the Lord's work here, sir.
Hey, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I know it's an honor to do for sure. And to meet incredible people like you and to introduce you to all those people out there in the world who some of them have probably seen direct results of your work and just didn't know it. And now they can appreciate it even more. And that's a great thing. So, well, speaking of appreciate, we appreciate you for joining us as always right here. If you haven't already, well, you know what to do. You know what I'm going to say. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Tell the world, because the more you share, if we'll all share a little, then we'll have been shared a lot, and there will be more love for our wonderful hidden stars of theater, and they all deserve it. So, and you deserve to share this with your friends, right? But that's it. That's it for today. As always, thank you. Love you. Go find a stage, whatever it is. Find the stage that scares you and make art and help perpetrate this thing, perpetuate it out to the world and share the love of the stage and of theater with everyone. So that's all I'm asking of you. Just a little thing. So we will see you guys next time right here on the Hidden Stars of Theater. Bye-bye.